the current position between Anish Giri and Fabiano Caruana, and Fabiano started thinking.
Finally, or maybe he was just getting bored with blitzing out all the moves and decided to have a little walk around, check out the inner city of Leuven. Since he's not allowed to go out at night with his manager Lawrence Trent here, he probably has to use the games to at least see some of the sights. But I'm expecting him to be back soon. He's made a lot of standard moves. There's different plans instead of this rook e8, bishop h6. People have also tried knight e7, knight g6. But he's done all the standard stuff. And then the structure, arguably white is a tiny bit better because the knight on c6 doesn't have that much to do. It's being well dominated by the pawn on c3.
I think your coffee supply have arrived, Jan.
Finally.
Everything you ask for becomes reality.
Just the way I like it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop talking for the next half hour and zip on this coffee. I'll leave you with
all right, you can
another
also have
one of
mine.
those.
You can also have my coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so 2 coffees for Jan, and I will talk about the rest of the games. Enjoy your coffee, Jan. So we have the position after h3, f5, and we shall put it on the board just to demonstrate that h takes g4 isn't the best move in the position, because that can be way too dangerous after f takes g4. And you don't have a good square for the knight, and g3 is coming with the bishop on a7. This pin on the a7 g1 diagonal is very disturbing, and the queen will appear on h4.
Yeah, it's interesting that Hikaru has much more aggressive ideas about the same line we were just talking about, also played by Topalov. Move order slightly varies, but rook e1, bishop a7, this is actually a known theme, and I'm a little surprised that Veselin allows this. Normally guys throw in h3, just not having
to prevent knight g4
any issues here, but Veselin went with knight bd2, and the combination knight bd2, rook e1 leaves the square a little vulnerable, and Hikaru wastes no time in trying to exploit that. Rook e2, king h8, it's also a typical move. h3, and here the idea I was taught is not as aggressive. You go knight to h6 and try to follow up with f5.
It's more in your style, knight h6 and not f5.
Well, my style would be knight back to f6 and say, you know what, I was just kidding. But f5, of course, is a very aggressive interpretation, and it looks like Veselin had decided to take on f5.
Taken the pawn, and Nakamura responded with... What did he play? Can't see the camera properly.
Nothing yet. So it looks like we're faster than the camera, because my board says e5, but the camera doesn't say it.
True, I was like, what piece is that? But it's the pawn on f5. So on the camera we see f5 being played, and he has... Topalov has already captured on f5.
We're living in a post-Janet Jackson world, so in order to avoid any incidents with nudity on stage, people have decided to delay this by a couple seconds. So if something inappropriate should happen, that we can always edit it out. And
exactly,
Hikaru
that's the main reason.
Goes for knight takes f2.
These chess players, top chess players, are famous for such scandals as taking their shirts off, just like in football.
I don't know, I haven't seen any, but if you have some experiences to share there, please let us know.
Just kidding. They are, of course, very polite, very smart, very intelligent people, very kind, and we hope to have them here as guests as soon as they finish their games. In the first round, we had Vishy Anand commentating his brilliant victory, and from this round on, I believe we will have all the other participants as well as soon as they finish their games.
We shall see. I'm surprised by Nakamura's approach to this. As mentioned, this is the standard way to deal with a knight h6 and then go for f5, but after f5, e takes f, he remains in extremely aggressive mode, takes on
knight
f2,
takes.
which you better have a direct follow-up, because else takes, king takes f2. It is a material disadvantage. White has 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn. His reasoning must be, maybe he wants to start with d5, and bishop goes somewhere. That the king is a little weak, the queen side is not yet playing, so he's trying to develop an initiative here. Did he go d5? Yeah, d5, bishop b3, bishop takes f5. Seems to be on the board with some ideas, like bishop takes d3 or e4. Certainly dangerous for Topalov. But on the plus side, if he manages to consolidate, he will be better. So it's a very, very tense moment. And once again, one would have to calculate. A move like queen e2 comes to mind, defending this and stopping e4. e4 takes, and I couldn't see any win.
Yeah, I was hoping that I could sacrifice it and then pin the knight on the file, but it might be nothing.
Yeah, I couldn't make it work, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some tactical solution.
Bishop c2 or... Yeah, bishop c2 should be there, rook e8, bishop c2.
It's also this move, but I also didn't get very far here. Looks like white has everything more or less under control here, maybe even g3, but let's just say king g1 takes, knight takes, and I couldn't get anywhere. So I'm curious if Hikaru, just thinks he can play this position more quietly, queen d6, rook a8, and take it from there, and he's not worried about the material imbalance, or if there is anything direct, which just not spotting. But for now, it's Vasilin's move, and he's weighing his options.
Let's have a look at the other games as well, how they began, what other exciting openings we have in round 2.
Exciting openings.
Yeah, I'm looking for some exciting positions.
What's going on there?
There's a wedding going on.
It's a wedding.
I believe it's a wedding here in Leuven in the town hall. A beautiful building, so it's an ideal place for any wedding. I think we have seen several wedding groups today, or it has been just one big wedding, but very impressive. And I think now what we remain with is the chess audience. So
do people get married on Fridays in Belgium? Don't you do that on the weekend? Like, nah, I have no clue.
I think now with the football schedule, it's just they want to see Belgium playing tomorrow. There's no time for weddings.
Do they want to see Belgium? Like, I haven't followed it much, but I heard Mark Wilmots might not be the most popular dude in Belgium at this point in time.
What happened?
I don't know. I think they were supposed to do better so far.
Yeah, but they can still do it. Tomorrow they can win, and then it's still, I think they can still qualify.
I know as much about football as about the Neidorf Sicilian, so I'll leave that topic alone. However, a boring Queen's Gambit is right up my alley, and this line we've seen employed by Laurent Fressinet in Paris. So Kramnik used to work together with Laurent Fressinet. I don't think this is his main line, but maybe he thought, you know what, Fress can get away with it, so can I, and he's played the line with knight b7 and a quick c5. I believe the line we've seen in that game was something like this, and here dc5. There's certainly other moves. White has a tiny advantage, but nothing to write home about. Therefore, Wesley So went with rook d1, maintaining the tension, queen a5, cd, knight d5. Similar story, but arguably a slightly better version for white because he's already activated his rook. Thing with these positions is the pawn structure is symmetrical, so if black manages to consolidate, get his pieces out, it will just be equal. But black has some work to do to get this bishop to a good square without anything happening.
Yeah, it's a similar position to Kramnik's previous game from the other color. I mean, there's no fianchet to a bishop, but it's a similar position where white has a slight advantage, and all that black needs to do is develop his pieces and try to consolidate. And if he can, then it will end in a draw.
Yeah. Let's see if he can. Normally Kramnik, he knows this stuff inside out. He's taking a bit of time here. I'm not sure what surprised him, but we see him moving his bishop, knight c6, rook d2, bishop d7. And if black isn't time to go, let's say rook fd8, bishop e8, these things tend to peter out reasonably quickly.
Is that already an official dictionary word, peter out?
Yeah, I haven't made that one up, and people actually say that. I use it to annoy Svidler, but it's not unheard of. Let's go back to Carlsen, MVL, which hasn't progressed very far, but guys are taking time here because it's a very complex situation. Carlsen went with bishop e3, h4, rook c1, saying I'm worried about nothing, I'm just going to ignore whatever you do on the king side and develop my piece on the queen side. Interesting choice, because he's giving up the option of ever castling queenside.
I was wondering about the same. What is he planning to do with his king? Because it will remain in the center forever, it seems. Unless you want to walk to the queenside at some point with king d2, king c2, king b1, that could be funny.
Yeah, unlikely. Just, I know this is not what you meant, but just because I like showing dumb tricks, this would be very, very unfortunate. But on the other hand, maybe he's saying, if I don't get checkmated, I might even get away with
the better pawn structure.
Something, I was going to say this, but I don't like the look of it. Nah, it looks too risky. Like, very long term, you might be able to exploit this, but here, let's say, takes. Knight takes, and I don't know, any move, ef4 or knight d5. It looks like it's black who's calling the shots, so probably that's not his idea either. Then what is? Just take maybe.
Maybe that's the simple idea. And then the knight is heading to f4, you can't capture on e5 because of the b7 hanging pawn, or is there some?
No,
Maybe
you can
now,
do this
and the
take,
h3
I
knight
thought.
will also be hanging.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, to me, black seems to be doing all right, frankly.
I do prefer black here because it all looks more natural, centralized pieces, open h5 for the h8 rook, and the king seems to be safer to me.
Yeah, we'll see how it continues. For now, it looks like MVL came up with an interesting idea with his h5, h4 and caught Magnus a little bit off guard. Magnus decided not to try to punish it, but to just, get his pieces out, see what happens. But MVL, to my mind, I'm not sure what you think. He's too strong to be a dark horse, but I always have the feeling if anybody can enter the race between the two big favorites, Carlsen and Nakamura, it should be Mr. MVL. He's a fantastic blitz player.
We should watch out for Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. He might win this event. Actually, in this field, it's like all the 10 players are capable of winning the event. Of course, it depends on the shape as well, and it seems like Carlsen and Nakamura are in their best shape. Rishi Anand has just joined. He didn't play in Paris, but anybody could win this event, any of the 10 players. They are the best players in the world, so it's very normal that they all have their chances.
If that's how you feel, though, I'll still take Carlsen
I
and
do feel
Nakamura
like that.
against the rest of the field who can all win. Like,
The
we
odds
can discuss
that
it.
a Carlsen or Nakamura would win are, of course, better, but I do believe that all the participants have chances.
Of course, MVL lost his first round game to Vichy with white, so he won't be happy. Normally after a loss, you're not dreaming of facing the world champion with the black pieces. But it seems like the opening has gone fine for him. And he's played bishop f5, not bishop e6. Similar ideas, he wants to follow up with queen d7. I don't know, I like his position. I'm not sure what Magnus is up to here. Really can't see anything good.
He doesn't seem to be very confident about his position.
Why would you be? Like, queen d7 is coming, long castles, hg is always in the air, it's going to be a threat after queen d7. It looks unpleasant. If you have to go knight f2, black has a pleasant choice. Maybe he can even think about h3 or takes an h3, or just taking here, and the white pieces will always look a little funny. So, I think MVL is doing fine.
Yeah, it just always seems to be more natural for black. All the moves he has to play are very natural moves.
What else is going on? Let's go back to Hikaru. Let's see what he came up with after.
Topalov is running short on time.
I'm very surprised. Topalov decided to voluntarily give him this d3 pawn.
Was there any reason for not playing queen e2?
Yeah, I couldn't see it. Like, there might be some tactics, but still can't see them.
Yeah, we couldn't
E4
make
takes,
e4
takes.
work because it seems like after e4 you can capture, and we didn't find any way to execute something about this pin on the e file or somehow the f file.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Puzzling.
So king g1, bishop takes d3. Now black has 2 pawns and a rook for the 2 pieces, which is already enough material. Knight df3, e4, knight to h2. White has secured his king, and if white is allowed to develop calmly, he might still be all right. But I'm very surprised he gave up this pawn.
I don't like white's position after having given up the d3 pawn. It just feels completely fine for black.
Well, the question is how you keep the d5 pawn. It's not that simple because a move like knight e7 feels a little passive. I'm not sure. Maybe bishop g5 could be a nuisance. And bishop f7, same story, feels a little backwards. So maybe his idea is quite direct, but I also...
It might be just
Don't trust
temporary if you go knight e7 and then if you can consolidate with c6.
Yeah, you could do that.
I mean, I'm worried about the dark squares because I don't have a dark square bishop as black and I have all these holes in my position, but still, with 2 pawns and the rook, I do prefer.
There might also be more aggressive ways to handle this, like queen h4 when
The
I'm
more
not sure what's
Nakamura
going
way
on.
of handling the
Bishop
position.
d5, rook d8.
Yeah, this
Queen
is
f2
something
is in the
that
air.
Hikaru would definitely like to play instead of going passive with knight e7.
Yeah, I don't know. King g1 seems to me like not calling Hikaru's. I'm not sure if it was a bluff, but not going for the critical stuff. It looks like we have a tweet incoming that you can see the hashtags on screen, C24 Live and hashtag Grand Chess Tour.
Anand is pressing with white against Aronian. Grand Chess Tour has tweeted, and of course you can all tweet us by using the hashtag Grand Chess Tour and also the hashtag Your Next Move GCT. So if you'd like to tweet us, there are the two hashtags, Your Next Move GCT or Grand Chess Tour.
I'm altogether very confused with all these hashtags, especially if they're so long. Like, give me 3-letter hashtags. GCT, was that taken? I don't know. Anyway, it looked like that tweet was a subtle hint to stop completely ignoring Anand against Aronian. So let's go there. It was a Berlin, which was a big reason for...
And they actually entered the Berlin, so there was no anti-Berlin with D3.
Yeah, it's another form of the anti-Berlin, this rookie one line, which is really the most solid way you can meet it. You get a symmetrical pawn structure pretty much off the get-go, but white is trying to prove that his pieces are a bit better, because his knight on D6 normally has to spend quite a bit of time to re-enter the game, either via F5 or later via E8 and F6. There's lots of theory here. Knight to C3 is a currently trendy line intending to go for a quick knight D5. Knight E8, knight D5, bishop D6, rook E1. All of this has been seen. Once again, there's different moves here. Knight F6 is a move as well. But this C6, knight E3 is another main line. Bishop E7 or bishop C7, both possible. I'm not a big expert, but I'm surprised that black players seem to be avoiding this line, which to my mind always looked fairly equal in spite of the white two bishops. But they don't want to give Vichy a free bishop pair, and therefore Aronian played bishop E7, intending to meet knight F5 with bishop F6, where next move would be D5, and there's no problems. So the white idea is to fight against this D5 move now, play C4. All of this has been seen in plenty of high-level games as well. Carlsen against Caruana, for example, a bunch of kayaking games. So nothing new under the sun. Leads to a symmetrical pawn structure where white is a tiny bit better because his bishop is a bit faster in occupying the E5 square than the black bishops are in getting out. Okay, enough.
So the current position, because they have played several moves afterwards, and we have a slightly better position for Vichy.
Yeah, it's an endgame where white is a little better, his bishop is a little better, and black has these double pawns, which is not a big deal for now. And he does have some open files to compensate for it, but long-term, white structure is better. I like this maneuver, rook E3 and probably rook B3, keeping black passive. And this is how Vichy has been playing in the candidates as well with white. He plays one E4, plays lines that look outwardly a little harmless, but then finds ways to keep a bit of pressure. And in the candidates, I can't remember his score, but I think at some point he had like 4.5 out of 5 or something crazy out of these
Yeah, he started very
dull
well.
white positions. And therefore, yeah, he keeps doing that, and looks like Levon, yes, seems to think this position is defensible. I'm not sure how worried he is, but I certainly would be against Vichy. You have the worst bishop, like the bishop can only defend his own D5 pawn and can't attack the D4 pawn. You do have this weakness. Levon correctly exchanges a pair of rooks to keep the pressure from mounting.
I think they have already exchanged the rooks on the C file, or I'm not seeing
That one I'm surprised by. Is this a winning attempt, or is this just acknowledging that black has solved his problems? Rook C3, rook C6, and rook takes C6.
Yeah, rook C6. Yes,
Way
taken
over my
on
head. Why not
C6, yes.
BC? He does go BC. The only plan I can see would be to go A4 and B4 and try to build an outside passed pawn. But after A4, I thought black can go C5, and it didn't look like a problem. So maybe you want to start with B4. Then I thought B5, which is a bit ugly, but if the queen side is closed and then next black puts his king on D6, goes G5, F6. To me, it just looks like a draw, so I'm not sure. I wish he's played king C3.
I'm puzzled. I thought that he was pushing and he was trying to play for a win, and now it all seems to be getting too close to a draw. He also doesn't look very motivated anymore, at least Vichy. I feel like they are about to offer a draw.
Yeah, to me, this rook C3 and rook takes C6 looks like a draw offer, and maybe his understanding is just so good that he sees, okay, I'm not going to win this position against Levon with one pair of rooks. Everything is defended. I can't really target this pawn. Maybe it's a bit of a mirage, but the Grand Chess Tour tweeted it, and they would not lie to us. So he did have a bit of pressure. It looks like Anand-Aronian has solved most of his problems. King c3, c5 is on the board, and this just looks equal. Vichy goes b3, stopping any potential expansion.
Yeah, I think
Wants to go a4.
this will end in a draw quickly. I also can't see a way nor any.
Well, maybe he's thinking of doing something like this to create a passed pawn, but even this should. I'm gonna mess it up within 3 moves. Like, should still be a draw.
I'm sure that we can mess it up, but I think that Aronian will defend this endgame easily.
Yeah. Let's operate under that assumption. If something drastic happens, we'll come back to it. Levon just played g5, typical moves, putting his pawns on dark squares on the king side. One of these pawns on g5, f6, so you control the whole king side together with the bishop.
Let's go back to Carlsen Bashir, because
we
it
are.
seems to be a crazy position.
Yeah, bishop f5, Carlsen went knight to g5. Yeah, his position is unpleasant, so he's trying to make some use of this knight on the rim by targeting f7. But MVL, remembering the rules, even though he's played h5, h4, he's still allowed to castle kingside, and he makes use of that fact here, which is good news and bad. Like, he's giving up any dreams of putting pressure on the h-file, ever going hg, making things happen here. But he finishes development, covers f7, and can now ask white the question, what do you want to do next? Because I have plans. I can go knight d4, I can go ef4, I can even go bishop takes g5 and bishop e6. I still like black's position.
I also prefer black. I was wondering if we can castle kingside as well as white.
Yeah, probably you should, but I'm not sure if it solves all the issues. Let's say knight to d4, and it seems like white is pretty passive here.
Some trouble for Magnus Carlsen. It seems he didn't really get the best opening idea. Something went wrong with this knight h3 line.
The good thing is he can blame Jon Ludwig Hammer,
Can always blame it on Hammer.
face this. It tends to be a decent idea to blame things on Hammer. Even though Hammer is not here, our friend Peter Heine Nielsen is with him. The whole Carlsen team, his dad and one of his sisters are also accompanying him. So they are taking this event very seriously, or as a holiday excursion to the lovely city of Leuven, or both.
I think both. As far as I can tell, Magnus Carlsen wants to win the tournament here in Leuven. He was disappointed about not winning in Paris, so he wants to take a revenge on Hikaru Nakamura and win the event here in Leuven.
Have you asked him, or is this an assumption?
I feel like. And he takes it very seriously. He came with his whole team, as you said. I think his family might be doing sightseeing while Magnus is trying to win the event.
I'm not sure if Anish Giri is trying to win the event, but I do think he's trying to win his game against Fabiano. Those two used to have the same coach, are very, very familiar with each other. And normally it's interesting games, even though a lot of them end in draws, because they know each other so well, they have similar playing styles. So let's see what happened here. We've seen this Chuko piano position out of the opening, and Fabiano decided to spice it up a bit by going d4, b5, knight e7, and the structure changes, I would guess, to white's advantage. Bishop e3 with tempo. You have a bishop against the knight. There's some targets in the black position. Queen d7, knight g3. Yeah, Anish has some pressure here. Problem is you can't, or you don't gain much by taking on b5 because c7 is hanging. And knight e8 was played by Fabiano.
That's logical.
Looks very logical, but also a little passive. Rook b1, I guess he didn't like knight d6 because of b6. So you start with b6, and now Anish opens the position.
Yeah, now it looks way too passive.
Yeah, it's tough defense for Caruana. This pawn is controlling two black pawns, which is always a nice thing to have. This knight is headed towards d4, sorry. This bishop is stronger than either of the black knights, so...
And the c7 backward pawn will always be weak, and you have to keep an eye on it as black. You have to be protecting that pawn all the time.
Yeah, Fabi's going to have to defend here. He's very good at that, but Anish also enjoys having a slight advantage. So we'll see how that one goes. Fabiano took and went rook to e5. Funny looking rook. I think a rook on c5 they call the Lasker rook, because Lasker...
Is that?
Yeah, he once won some classical game.
But does it have to be like in front of the pawns, or when is it the Lasker rook?
I don't make the rules, but I think if it goes here, then it's a Lasker rook.
All right.
I'm not
the
sure
rook
if there's
on
a
c5
definition.
is a Lasker rook. I've just learned something
Yeah, but I've never been that impressed with that game in the first place, so I think he got lucky. He just put his rook on a funny square and somehow won. But I'm not sure. I think for Fabiano it's more of born out of desperation or out of necessity, because this rook didn't have a
it
lot of
doesn't
great
seem like
squares.
the rook can hang out there on c5 because of this e3 bishop. So I don't know if he's really heading to c5.
We'll find out. f4 has been played, asking this rook quo vadis, whatever that means, and I would guess this is his destination. Yeah, white is still better. Queen a2, and jumps are in the air. White has a potential pawn roller on the king side.
It's very unpleasant to play this position as black because you don't have a good square for the rook, and also your knights are very clumsy. The queen on c8 is passive. I don't like any of black's pieces.
Yeah, and it's quite amazing that out of these Italian a4, they keep getting good positions, so it might really be here to stay. I might have to
Yeah, we might
finally
need
look
to
at
learn
it.
the Italian.
So Anish is pushing, and Fabiano has played rook c5. What else? He's going to go queen a2 or queen d3, I don't know, and enjoy his advantage. Let's see how Hikaru is doing against Topalov. He did not play the aggressive move queen h4, but went with the more solid knight e7.
Surprising, we expected queen h4, more of Nakamura style, but perhaps it's just better to keep the pawn. And after bishop, oh, he did not play bishop g5.
No, maybe it was a bit of an empty shot after
Yeah,
c6. You got to
c6.
deal with queen b6 check.
And you will
therefore-
go bishop b3 anyway, so it's a loss of a tempo.
Bishop e3 was played, queen d6. Yeah, black is fine. He has too many pawns in the center. c5 is coming. Vaseline is directing his pieces towards the center to stop any potential d4 breakthroughs. But it's still very hard to believe white
just
could be better here.
looks bad, and
Some
also with
stabilizing
the
move.
knights on h2 and on c2, I don't really believe that this position is fine for white.
Yeah, the question is, can Hikaru break through? But it feels like there we see Topalov on camera also playing the move we already know, because as we figured out, there is this delay. Topalov sporting his lucky, what's the color called? You're the color expert. Is it indigo?
I believe so, but is it his lucky one? I didn't think that.
I don't know. He got crushed
He
in
also
those
has the purple
on
one.
one day during Paris, so
Oh,
maybe
it
they're
was
not
this
that
one.
lucky.
I thought his lucky one was the purple t-shirt, but maybe both.
Maybe he has many lucky clothes. Do you think the players are superstitious about their clothing in general?
They might be, but I wish we could ask them. So once we have somebody appearing here that we think that might be superstitious about his clothing, I think we should ask them directly the question. What do you think?
We'll do it. Yeah, this position, I don't have much to say. I prefer black. I'm not sure if there is any direct breakthroughs, but black just has many more active possibilities. Knight coming to f5, queen g3 is in the air. I'd go b6 at some point just to stabilize the structure. And I'm still very, very confused why Vaseline gave up this d3 pawn without a fight.
We'll have to ask him because we thought that queen e2 was a good move here for white. We don't understand why he had to play king g1 immediately in this position.
In the meantime, Kramnik has equalized against Wesley, so that's what I mentioned earlier. If you get this bishop out, there's not much going on in these positions. And the bishop on c6, this position is absolutely equal. White has the d file, but there's nothing to do there. Black's rook on the c file is doing fine, so I believe this game is going to end peacefully, as did the game Anand against Anand-Aronian. Aronian managed to defend his slightly unpleasant endgame he got out of the opening.
We are slightly surprised by the rook exchanges that happened on the c file, especially rook takes c6 seemed like it was a draw offer, as you mentioned, which he didn't want to try any further improving that position, playing for a win in that endgame.
Yep. So that's a draw. So
I think
Kramnik
the
is a
game
draw.
of the round is Carlsen-Vachier because it is a mess. We see the two players there behind Vladimir Kramnik.
Carlsen tried to make a virtue out of this h-pawn still on h4, and he decided to just grab it, not so much
takes
to...
h4. We expected castle king style, just a safe way to play this position, but maybe it was too passive anyway. So g takes h4, grabbing some material for the bad position.
Yeah, he's trying to stabilize his knight on g5, but it does look quite loosening, and MVL now goes for a direct attack, knight d4, bishop d4, both ed, but especially queen d4 I think are just out of the question, because white is too weak on these dark squares. For example, takes queen h4 check, wins instantly, so you can't take that knight, but if you have to live with his knight on d4, it's normally bad news as well. Queen to d1 and bishop c5, emphasizing these problems on the dark squares. I don't know, this could end in disaster for the world champion.
It doesn't look any good for Magnus Carlsen. He already had a not so good game in the first round against Wesley So, and now he's suffering against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave with the white pieces. So might be trouble for Magnus Carlsen. Today he is not in his best shape. We've just seen Anand-Aronian passing by, but I think he didn't intend to explain his draw against Vichy, and it wasn't the most exciting game of the event. He just went outside to take some fresh air, and then he will be back for round 3, which will begin at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. It looks extremely dangerous for white, but I can't see any direct ways into the white camp yet in such a position. Feels like something should happen, and especially against MVL, who's a very gifted attacker. You don't really want this, but I'm not sure how. You could maybe just grab this bishop, even though you're 2 pawns down. Let's say queen takes, bishop takes, e3.
Yeah, but these 2 pawns down I think we would all want to have, because the king is in the center. We have all these weaknesses on the dark squares, and thanks to the e3 bishop, this position looks just very tempting for black.
Yeah, Magnus has decided to stop that by going queen d2, defending the bishop on e3, understandably. But once again, pleasant choice for Mr. MVL. e4, rook a8. What else could you do? f6? Nah, f6 feels a little odd.
I like rook a e8, taking the e5, threatening e takes f4. Okay, I'm not sure we are threatening that much, but why not to have the rook on d5?
Yeah, it's a very unpleasant position. So many bad things could happen. You can't really castle.
Yeah, because of the diagonal, this looks just horrible. That would lose on the spot. Magnus Carlsen is about to play, or I'm seeing once again with delay what's going on the camera. He has played queen d2.
And Mr. MVL is very hard to read. I play this board game with him. Sometimes we have to identify if someone's on team good or team bad, and he always has the same facial expression, so it's very hard to tell. But he doesn't look unduly worried. I think he's just calculating EF or whatever he wants to do next. You can also get nervous sometimes if you have such a good position, or what I think is such a good position against the world champion, that you don't want to mess up and you want to be extra precise. Both sides don't have that much time left. MVL has 9 minutes, Carlsen has 6. And yeah, you don't want to be in Magnus's shoes here.
He has played e takes f4, bishop takes f4, and then I can't see from Vladimir Skramnik's head what happened. I think it's rook f e8.
Yeah, natural enough as well. Doesn't feel like he needs his rook on f8 to do anything, so he uses that to put it on the e file. Maybe he can use his other rook on d8. What's Magnus doing? Are his moves blocked by his Norwegian water bottle?
We are not seeing his position very well from the bottle, but we might try to guess. Is that rook? Now the rook was
played
there.
knight ce4.
Knight ce4. Yeah, that makes sense, trying to block the e file, avoid any danger. And also as this c5 bishop, what is it going to do? Because if the bishop moves away, maybe at some point he could finally castle. Although I don't know how much we want to castle. It's just, it doesn't feel safe anywhere. It doesn't feel safe in the center, doesn't feel safe on the king side. Where would you put this white king if you could choose any square?
a1.
So let's start walking there, but this is not the position.
No, okay. Maxime has to react. I don't know if there's anything drastic. Doesn't look like, so I guess you just go somewhere. But hang on, rook c7? I'm blundering Maxime's pieces
Oh, that's
probably won't
fine.
enjoy.
We can blunder his pieces and then take our moves back. We cannot move the bishop in that case, but that's bad news.
Can go bishop d6, but that's not exactly what you were dreaming of. Might still be playable.
Not really. I wanted to keep that bishop.
I'm blundering left and right. I'm also blundering knight. Rook
Okay,
takes
so
e2.
bishop d6. He can only play bishop takes d6.
But that's a different story. If black gets the white dark square bishop, he might
Threatening
still be in good
d5,
shape.
and the e2 pawn will be hanging. You always have knight g3, of course, but this doesn't look bad. The knight on d4 is very strong, and also the e file is about to be open again after d5, and knight will have to leave the e4 square. I think Maxime is just doing fine here.
Yeah, still some decisions to be taken. Maxime goes bishop
He
takes
has
e4,
captured-
gets rid of
yeah,
this bishop. I
bishop
guess knight takes
takes-
e4 will follow. And now more of a hacker might think about rook e4 or queen g4. Is this a move?
Might be his idea. If not, I don't understand bishop takes e4. Why to give up this bishop? It must be very concrete. So queen g4 seems to be a good idea. The g2 bishop is hanging, so there's no time for knight takes c5 or rook takes c5.
I'm hoping for tricks like this.
And it works, seems like. So even if knight c3, this position is lost. I guess I'll just take on e2.
Yeah, something bad is
Knight
going to happen.
takes e2, maybe it's good enough. Or even rook takes.
What is going on? Okay, I'm gonna give in to the temptation of switching on the computer, and the computer, as usual, says no problem for white. Rook c5, queen g2, rook f1.
Seriously, this
What are you
position
worried
looks
about?
horrible. Okay, he hasn't played queen g4, so that might be a better move, but if there's no queen g4, why to capture this knight on e4? What's the point?
Yeah, but as usual, the cold heart computer eyes, the computer just says, I have an extra pawn on h4, I will parry all your threats, I ain't worried about nothing. And you prove that you have enough compensation. Over the board, it still feels like Carlsen has to be extremely cautious here, and he goes bishop takes e4 instead of knight takes e4.
We are missing something that what was going on with knight takes, or maybe simply bishop takes is a better move. The bishop is still hanging on c5, and he might have something going on the h7 square, right? Although I don't think that's a big deal.
No, but now I'm plugged in, so I will become a lot smarter. Knight takes e4 was stronger, but it's very understandable that he did fear this queen g4 move, which looks very scary.
Yeah, for
bishop
us
e4,
human beings, it seems scary.
this is a big problem. Threatening bishop to b4, and white doesn't seem to have a good move. You still can't castle, because that allows knight jumps,
Yeah, this
and
looks
there's just nothing to do
very
about it.
bad, but he played queen e7, I think, as far as I can see.
Same idea, to go here, and yeah, it's not easy to parry that threat at all.
Yeah, this is the big difference
A3, knight
between
B3.
knight takes and bishop takes. With knight takes, the bishop was hanging twice, so there was no time for queen e7 or queen b5. Now, how can you parry this threat?
You can't, like it's too big of a price to pay if you go queen d1, bishop b4,
Ouch.
king f1, it's too ugly to even contemplate, so I believe he's gonna have to give up an exchange. I'm not sure what the best way to do this is, to allow bishop b4 and then go rook
Has played
c3.
king f1, he
played
says,
king f1.
and Maxime has responded very quickly. I don't know with what move, because I can't see from Vladimir Kramnik. Can somebody tell Mr. Kramnik to sit back? Now, thank you.
There you go. Still can't see it though. But
Yeah,
the good news is we have this
rook
little
d8,
tool that shows us the
actually.
moves.
Yeah, rook
rook
a8,
d8, natural
rook
enough.
a8 is
Oh,
played.
wow, king f1. Magnus has a much higher tolerance for ugly king positions than me.
What happened there?
Well, he goes e3, kicking this knight back, and he might just survive. Knight e6 seems logical, then you take. F takes e is not really what black has been dreaming of. Bishop g5 might work, and even if no bishop g5 now, the king would be quite safe after king g2. So I guess this is the idea.
Queen takes, rook takes, and now, yeah, queen takes e4, thanks to the pin on the d file. This could work.
Seems like, but yeah, it's quickly becoming a total mess with both guys having very limited time on the clock. So it's
This
gonna
is
come
what we
down to-
love, short on time, a lot of opportunities for a blunder.
It's like Magnus fell asleep for a second there, but then, yeah, he woke right back up when Maxime. I don't know what Maxime did. Nothing yet. He's holding his head, calculating.
He's still thinking.
Does he have any other moves than knight to e6? I'm not sure. F5 or something brutal.
About to
ed.
play knight. What did he play? Knight.
Yeah, he went knight e6, so I'll stop blundering his pieces. Knight e6, Magnus gonna take, and then he's gonna have to make a decision. But I believe this queen takes e6 line is his idea when white probably shouldn't take on c5. Oops, something went wrong.
What? We might need to open the chessboard again. There it is.
We'll get
We
it,
are
we'll
just
get it.
missing the games, but it's all right. We can talk about the camera view. In the meantime, we can see the position fairly clearly from this angle as well. So it's pretty nice to have so many cameras in the playing hall. And it is still Magnus Carlsen's turn to make a move.
What is he thinking about? Like,
I don't know. It just seems like knight takes e6 is the obvious move.
yeah, you don't want to allow knight takes f4. So I'm not quite sure. Like, excessive greed would get punished here. So he can't do that.
Yeah, this shouldn't be played. I think he will go knight takes e6, and after queen takes.
Yeah, now you need some stabilizing move, not
not to
allowing this
blunder,
queen takes e4.
You have time to
Queen
move the
somewhere.
queen away.
e2, g2, c2, one of those squares. Messy position. Still feels like black should be doing fine, but white does have the two bishops, and technically he does have an extra pawn currently. So if white consolidates, he can also very easily be better.
Yeah, if he can go like queen g2, then he should be fine if there's nothing immediately. What's going on the other boards, the Giri Caruana, for instance?
Anish managed to win the Lasker rook on c5, it looks like. Oh, and
Exchange up.
of
for
course I blundered
Anish
that
Giri.
tactic, f4 rook c5, hitting the queen, which I thought would go somewhere. But there is a direct knight c6.
a
Very cute.
beautiful tactical motive, and if rook takes c2, knight takes e7, wins the queen back and the piece.
Nicely spotted by Anish, and yeah, I guess Fabiano missed this, but he didn't really have a choice because rook to h5 is just too ugly to even think about. After whatever e5, this rook is just completely out of play. So knight c6, winning an exchange. It seems like rook takes.
Beautiful. Rook takes c6 had to be played, but this is just an exchange up for Anish Giri, and it doesn't seem like there's much compensation for the exchange.
No, the knights at least get out. That's what often happens when you lose material. Then your weaknesses sort of disappear, and your pieces get a little breathing space. But still, a full exchange, and I would be very surprised if Anish would not manage to convert that. Then again, Fabiano, he's a tough fighter. He's putting his pawns on white squares, trying to restrict the white pawns. And
Trying
you
to
still
build
have
up
to
a
find
kind
a
of
way
a
to
fortress,
break
but
through.
I believe that Anish will manage to break through, as you mentioned. What else is happening on the other boards? Because we haven't seen Topalov Nakamura for a while.
Topalov thought his position wasn't quite ugly enough as it was, so he put his bishop on a2 and went b3. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but it doesn't look pretty.
Doesn't look pretty at all. It's just bishop a2 and then b3. Okay, the pawn was hanging.
Yeah,
but
his bishop
still,
e8 was very clever, like daring him to go b3 or to lose the a
I
pawn.
like bishop e8, provoking b3. And he didn't have a chance to go back with the bishop because there was also c4 in the air. Although, if you have to move that pawn, then you create this hole on d4 and you open up the diagonal. But maybe a pawn is a pawn, as you say, so it is worth it.
Yeah, still unpleasant defense for Topalov to conduct, not helped by the fact that this bishop is kind of dead now. It's not easy to break through though, because white does have more pieces, so these guys do a pretty good job of controlling these e3 or d4 breaks, and Hikaru is going to have to build up patiently. But it just feels
Still
like...
looks bad for white. Even if you go bishop b1, this bishop will be just too passive with the pawn on e4 and d5. It doesn't seem like you will ever get a diagonal for this bishop. And the rest of the pieces are not promising either.
Nope, agreed. Topalov is gonna have to suffer. Anish Giri is on the verge of converting his advantage. Wesley, so Vladimir Kramnik, oh, it's spiced up a little bit, but still not that spicy. Kramnik went e5, e4. He's trying to make something happen out of this very equalish position. And that something should not be bishop takes f3 because there's a little counter in the form of queen d8.
Wow, nice move. Not difficult, but nice.
Knights and 2 I do excel at. Therefore, Kramnik went e4, closing this diagonal at the cost of a pawn, but that pawn is not worth a whole lot because the white pawn structure became kind of ugly in the process. Rook e8, targeting at queen d4. Black is hoping that if he manages to win back that e4 pawn, that he's gonna have the moral initiative at least, because the e3 pawn is a weakness. But I'd still be extremely surprised if this game ended anything but peacefully.
Well, at least Vladimir Kramnik is pushing. He equalized first and now he is trying to do something. It wasn't a draw offer. He wants to win any game, even with the black pieces.
Not sure. But yeah, we see Wesley highly focused over there. Kramnik also starting the position, has like 3 minutes, so has 5:25.
Running short on time.
Still, I'm still going with a draw, but it feels like the black position might be a bit easier to play now. And now you could go for cheapos like this. We'll find out. Let's go back to the plat du jour. Carlsen against MVL.
We see Topalov Nakamura here, so let's discuss this position first. Maybe no, we can go to Carlsen Vachier immediately because this seems to be the most interesting game of round 2. The opening was very surprising with this now knight h3 variation and Maxime responding to it with h5. So we feel like black's position should be fine.
What happened there? Are they a bit ahead of the little PGN for a change? Because I can see a white queen on g5. How would you get the queen there? This is like one of these chess puzzles where you have to...
Yeah, maybe it was queen g2 and then a capture on g5. But why would that happen? First
queen
knight
g2
takes...
makes
No,
limited amount of sense, so I think...
Knight takes and queen g2.
Takes...
Well, the bishop is hanging now, so he had to go... Where is the bishop? On d6 maybe? No, it cannot be on d6. Can't see it.
I believe it's on f8.
f8, yeah, that should be bishop f8. Exactly, and after bishop f8, queen g5. I think someone is falling asleep in the playing hall. This might not be the most exciting round of the day.
No, he's saving his energy. He knows there's still 3 games to come. Today is the longest day, 5 games of rapid each round.
Exactly.
Hour and a half. So might as well get your nap in now. I'm trying to nap as I speak, but it's not as simple as you think it is. And Magnus Carlsen here, I believe he's weathered the storm, but I still don't like his position, at least practically, because the black forces seem to be a lot more compact than the white army that is a bit all over the place. And it seems like Maxime's stuff will be easier to play. I think there was a rook on g2, so I'm gonna assume.
Yeah, it is on g2.
Not sure if this is the exact position, but if it is, you could grab the bishop on f4, for example, after whatever queen takes. I don't think white can ever be better. Here, as I said, this extra pawn, but it's not really worth anything. You can try to create a bit of a kingside attack, and yeah, he did take.
Taken, yeah. What happened afterwards?
He advanced some pawn, which...
The f pawn, is that?
Looks like f5, yeah. And that would make sense, because e3 is a target. So Maxime has decided to simplify. He doesn't really want a time scramble gamble here against the world champion. He's decided to simplify a bit, bishop f5, queen e3.
Massive exchanges are to come after queen takes e3. And that would mean a position with a pawn up for the world champion, but these doubled pawns on the h5 don't look like they will win the game.
Yeah, Magnus certainly gonna try.
The exchange on e3, and Well, one way to take advantage of these pawns would be to push it to h6, h5, h6.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
His
there's time for this.
Threat might be rook f3 in the air. Maybe it's not a big deal, you always have rook f2. He played rook e2, I think. Not to give up the e file permanently.
Anything along these lines, bishop d6 or bishop here, should be a
with
draw.
opposite colored bishops, it doesn't seem like this could be played for a win. Of course, Magnus Carlsen will try, but his position doesn't seem to be winning.
No, I think we can be fairly certain his position is not winning. I'm not even sure how much of a fight you can put up here, because once the black bishop lands on f6, black is just too compact and too active, so that the extra pawn really shouldn't matter. And you could see a scenario where rook d4 is met by rook c4, they exchange rooks and shake hands. We should never write off Magnus Carlsen and his winning capacity, but for now I think it's an equal endgame which should end peacefully. Speaking of peacefully, Giri seems to be putting a lot of pressure on Fabiano Caruana, a clear exchange up, and Fabi does not really seem to have much of a chance of surviving this.
I think something is wrong with our clocks, because it shows that Giri has run out of time, and also I think it was the case of Magnus, but it must be just something with the PGN, because they definitely have time on the clock.
I don't trust modern technology, so we're gonna go with the eye test. There is. Why do the white pieces look so dark? Like this queen on c4 looks like a black queen.
It looks like half brown already.
Maybe that's been Lauren's trend, like painting it half black before the game to confuse Anish, to make him think he's a queen down at all times. Anyway, Anish has a queen on c4, pawn on c6
has just captured on
disappeared.
c6, then queen a3, and this just seems to be a very much winning position for white. Exchange and the pawn up. Can I?
Yeah, you still gotta be a little careful.
Maybe 2 pawns. Is that?
No, it's 4 against 3 on the king side, so white is a pawn up. There's a pawn on f7 for black. You gotta be a little careful about potential counterplay for black. This position we have is not updated, so ignore the one on the board. Gotta be a little careful about counterplay with h5, h4, and if white were to take that, then knight takes f4. So there's still some ideas in the air. Also queen b2 check, followed by potential knight fork on e3 should the white king ever go to g2. But it still feels like with some careful calculation this is over. I'd think about h3, h4 here for white, just fixing the pawn structure. And Anish decides on rook.
Is on the board. He is planning, well...
What is he doing with this chair? Does he have like an automated chair? That was impressive.
I didn't see what happened with the chair.
I don't know. He seamlessly moved forward and backwards. Like I've never seen such a motion on a chessboard. 93, Fabiano is trying to at least create the illusion of some threats. I'm not sure there are any threats, but it looks scary to allow a check now.
He has a check, at least on the second rank, but it doesn't seem like a big deal.
No, just queen f3. Or am I blundering my queen? I'd blunder the queen. Queen f3, knight g4 check is probably exactly what you don't want to do. But if you avoid blundering the queen, it should just be winning. Queen e4, any move. The king will be reasonably safe on h1 with the queen controlling the long diagonal. So it's just Fabiano fishing for some last cheapos here before resigning. And I'm sure white can also force the issue with, I don't know, a move like e5, e6. But I'd be concerned about stabilizing, so I think I'd play queen e4. Let's see what Anish does. And let's also see if he shows us his oversized watch. I had a discussion with him about it. He was claiming it is a perfectly normal watch.
Oversized. I think, as you said, on camera it looks bigger than it is in reality, so it just seems like a normal watch.
The camera does add 40 pounds, but I'm not sure that applies for watches too. There we can see it.
He is going for e6.
It is a big watch. Come on, Anish. Admit it. He's played e6. He's less concerned about getting checkmated.
Yeah, perhaps there's nothing, it's just a check. You can go to h1 with the king and there are no more checks. The knight would need to be doing something miracle, like heading to f2 after a queen check on the second rank and then knight f2, but it's just impossible.
Yeah, and Anish doesn't mind simplifications. Now queen a2 check followed by queen takes e6 is legal, but it just leads to a hopeless endgame. Queen a2, king h1, queen takes e6, you take. fe, whatever, rook e1, knight f5, king g2, and you will convert this probably rather sooner than later, so yeah. There's not much to hope for Fabiano. I think he's going to take on e6 or maybe give a check on a2 first, then take, but
If
it's not going to
our
matter
Chess
either way.
24 community is right, they are saying that Topalov is winning. Could that be true?
Could be true, but since the PGNs haven't updated for a while, we would only have the eye test to find out. Let's stick with this one and see if Anish can actually convert this. How did his first round game go? Like during Paris, he was very worried about not straying too far away from the 50% mark. At some point, he was at -2, but he quickly won 2 games to
Yeah, his
rectify
objective
that
seems
situation.
to be keeping that 50%. And he did it in the Rapid, he did it in the Blitz, so he might want to repeat it here in Leuven.
And before you get any ideas, all of this is tongue-in-cheek. We're big fans of Anish Giri over here, and he's, of course, a fantastic player, but he's the first to humorously admit that he's had quite some 50% results recently. Some people say that should be his rapping name, 50%. But he's going to win this one. Well, how was the first round game? I really can't remember a thing.
Anish lost to Levon.
Oh, that's why
That
that's
was
why he's
the-
winning one. Then
the
it all
Poland
makes
game.
perfect sense.
Yeah, he has to get back to
okay,
50%.
Then no surprises
Could
there.
we see the camera of Topalov Nakamura, if it's possible?
You don't want to see the
I think
Suffering
Anish
of
is just
Fabi?
winning, and
G4?
it's just a matter
Oh.
of few moves.
Whoa. Might still be winning, but why would you do that? So much drama. HG?
Well, maybe it was not necessary to go G4, but he wants to finish the game as quickly as possible.
I'm very confused though. This looks like counterplay. HG, Queen F2. And things no longer seem so easy. Like there is even a threat of Queen H4 checkmate.
Anish must have missed something, because suddenly he started thinking in a position where he played G4 and the capture was completely normal. H takes G4, he has to go H takes.
And his facial expression changed a bit. Yeah, I believe he's missed Queen F2 after G4, HG. But that's a very strange move. Why would you weaken your king like that and allow trickery? And yeah, he's changed his
giving
mind.
a
He's on
check.
Queen D7 check. Fabi goes back, King H8. Sooner or later, I believe he has to go HG. But then Queen F2, maybe he wants to have a check on D8 to avoid the Queen H4 checkmate threat.
Veselin
Still.
Topalov has just won his game against Hikaru Nakamura. In
Wow.
a position that we thought that was very bad for white, he managed to turn the tables and he won the game. We will have to see later on what happened there. Maybe Hikaru has blundered something.
That means 0 out of 2 for Hikaru Nakamura.
The winner of Paris
begin.
Branches Tour is suffering here in Leuven. He has lost both of his games here in Rapid.
Anish is trying to give some clever checks to pick up a pawn with check there, but Fabi, cunning as he is avoiding that
It
by
does
keeping his
seem
king.
like he missed Queen F2 as you mentioned, and G4 wasn't the smartest move in the position. That's just incredible, because it seemed an exchange and a pawn up for nothing.
Should still be winning somehow, but he certainly complicated his task.
He has to play
Tremendously.
very precise here in order to convert this position.
I don't see a win, honestly. HG, Queen F2, there is the threat of Queen F3 followed by Knight G4 or followed by Knight F1. It feels like, yeah, there's always gonna be perpetual checks around. You can't move the rook because there's checkmate on G2. You can lose on time if you forget about the clock, but he's just given a couple checks to
Queen
avoid
F7,
that.
he might want to capture on G6. Is that his idea?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, but I allow
Queen
some
takes
black checks, like Queen
G6.
A8 check, King H2. Is it A8 or where's the Queen? It's on B2, yeah?
Yeah.
Queen G6, so
It's giving another check.
he's repeated a couple times now, so he's gotta be careful.
Maybe he wants to go Queen H4 check and then capture on G4.
Yeah, but still that allows Queen E2 or some move that comes worryingly close to his own king. Maybe that's what he has to try, but he tries Queen
Taking on
E6.
E6. So now, if queen, well, he will start giving checks again and he will try to grab the other pawn as well. If queen f2, I guess.
Yeah, queen f2 is a move, or queen b7 check, king h2, and queen b2 check back. Then king g3 would be the only winning attempt when you would have to calculate stuff like knight f5 check,
yeah,
king
knight
takes
f5
g4,
looks annoying.
queen f2. It's become very sharp all of a sudden, and yeah, only Anish, yeah, he only has himself to blame for that because it was just a totally winning position.
Exactly.
Before he went for this e6 g4 operation.
Seems like he wanted to win immediately, pushed e6, pushed g4, and it was not necessary. Now it seems like it's not clear anymore. He can even blunder and lose the game if he wants to.
Yeah, he always has a perpetual, but playing this with 22 seconds, you better be sure, because these knights, they tend to get very jumpy.
I think we have a guest. Veselin Topalov will explain his victory against Hikaru Nakamura.
Welcome, Veselin. I think you sit there, there's a microphone.
Do we have a clue?
Unfortunately, we don't have all the moves. Our system. There he is.
Congratulations to Veselin Topalov. He has just won against Hikaru Nakamura in a very exciting game. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, I think it was very interesting at the beginning, and the position was very complex. It looked good for black, but I could somehow coordinate my pieces, and then, of course, the truth is I don't really know what was happening, but you know, because it was very imbalanced. But then in the time trouble, obviously we both probably made many mistakes, and he couldn't somehow find the good moves, and then made some big mistake and finally lost.
Can you solve one question for us on the position where after bishop takes f5 you went king g2? Why couldn't you go queen
king g1,
king g1, sorry. Why couldn't you go queen e2 defending the pawn? We couldn't see any trick working. So.
Well, probably it was a good move, but it is true. But somehow my feeling was he played so fast and he kind of prepared it. And this is probably the move he expected, and that's the reason I thought I give one pawn, but then I can kind of coordinate my pieces. That was my impression, but for some reason I didn't really consider that move seriously.
Maybe we are wrong. We didn't check it with the engine. We just didn't know if that was something you saw after queen e2, and we were
No,
wondering.
not really. Not really.
We always check. So let's
Yeah, we have
go through the highlights. When did it
on the board.
turn? When you got...
Well, the thing is that the pawns here, they're in the central pawns, they're strong, obviously, but at the same time they're weak, and it's not so easy to advance them. And now I don't know. Okay, this move was I somehow after I jumped with the knight, and this is probably already a mistake. And I don't know. Somehow I thought that black has to play somewhere with the queen, and I didn't understand what was going on again.
So you think that bishop takes g4 was the mistake?
Here I liked very much my position, because again that especially the next moves I think were a mistake. Okay, this was, I don't know if what I did was correct, and now okay I kind of blocked these pawns, and then this was a mistake. The knight jump I believe was a mistake, because here I had several moves also with the rook, but this is what, but again he had already seconds, and this was mistake I believe what he did, and now of course he should have I think, yeah, now I think knight h4 should be already winning somehow. Yeah.
Go to the and you just took material. So which time control do you prefer? You're not famous as a blitz player, but you picked up a lot of blitz rating, I believe, during the Paris tournament. Are you warming up to blitz?
Well, with the rating I had, it was easy to win points, but no, I like fast time controls, simply that it's not my best, but I like it. I believe it's more dynamic and far more interesting for spectators.
Last but most important question. We were speculating if you have lucky pieces of clothing, like you have these very blue, I don't know what the color is called, indigo pants that you're wearing, are these your lucky pants or is it a style choice?
No, well, I wouldn't say so because in Paris I was also wearing it. No, I don't have any, I'm not so superstitious. No.
Thanks a lot, Vesely and
Thank
Topalov,
you.
and good luck. I'll just leave it there.
We'll have to ask each and every player about superstitions.
Yeah, maybe Anish believes in really big clocks. The game has ended in a draw indeed, and he's going to be kicking himself because it was totally winning before he embarked on all these e6, g4 adventures.
So he did not get back to 50%. Anish Giri is on -1 after not converting an exchange up against Fabiano Caruana. And we have the standings here: Vladimir Kramnik, Fabiano Caruana, and Anand-Aronian, Anand. They are all on 3 out of 4. 2 points for the victory, 1 point for the draw. And in the middle of the standings we have Topalov, Carlsen, and Vesely on 2 out of 4. Then at the very bottom, 1 point for Maxime Vachier and also Anish Giri. And the winner of Paris Grand Chess Tour, Hikaru Nakamura, is still trying to find his best form. He has lost both his games today.
Yeah, that's a massive surprise, of course. Let's see if he can find his groove back for his next game against Anish Giri, which will certainly be interesting. We also have the world champion Will Black against Anand-Aronian, so a lot of action to look forward to. We're gonna go on a brief break and see you guys back. The game start in roughly 50 minutes. See you then.
See you.